All right, so starting things off, women's representation matters. All right, so the Panther cadets chose the name. Uh, I think it does matter. And how did this come to be? So I feel like why representation matters was a great thing. And I think we answered a lot of questions about inclusion, diversity, and representation in the United States Army, particularly with the senior ranks. And I think it was a great discussion. However, I feel even entering into the discussion, I feel like it was dominated by the masculine majority because the panel was primarily male. And I don't think it took away from the, the intent of that discussion, but I feel like there was a significant gap in the discussion. And why was there a gap? Well, there are 27 female cadets at Prairie View to 18 male cadets. So most of the questions, most of the participation came from the female cadets, and those questions were either not able to be answered or somewhat skewed by the male answer. And that's not to say men are not able to answer a question, but some of these questions really need to come from a female perspective. And I feel like we were missing that. So what I did was I reached out to Colonel Whittaker, was my previous supervisor at United States Army Pacific, and asked her if she would do a video call or just answer a few of the questions that went unanswered. Of course, she stepped that up and invited a bunch of her peers. And what we have now is a significant representation of senior female leadership in the military. I said this before in the chat, I have not seen this many colonels in one place unless there was a 4-star directing it. So I do really appreciate all of your time, and I will do my best not to waste any of it. So getting forward, I am going to introduce each of the panel members real quick, and then I will shut up because the purpose is not to hear me talk. Colonel Whittaker and anyone who's ever worked with me knows that I could probably talk for a significant period of time. So I'm going to do my best not to do that. All right, so we should be able to see Colonel Whittaker's bio. Somebody give me a thumbs up, confirm this. All right, there we go. All right, let's start off. Colonel Whittaker, you've been given the bio, but currently Deputy Chief of Staff, G6 at the United States Army Pacific, stationed at Fort Shafter, Hawaii. She was my supervisor during the last year at USERPAC, and prior to her assignment at USERPAC, Colonel Whittaker was the commander of Defense Information Systems Agency, DISA, Global Field Command. There's much more to it, but moving on, Colonel Washington. Colonel Washington, commissioned into the Transportation Corps. She served as the garrison commander for U.S. Army Garrison Yongsan in the Republic of Korea, and is currently serving as the G3 in the 19th Expeditionary Sustainment Command at Camp Henry. Colonel Rivers currently serves as the Chief of Operations Support Division at Human Resources Command, HRC, in Fort Knox, Kentucky. She was formerly the Brigade Commander for the Information Systems Engineering Command, ISEC. She has a great deal of experience in mentoring and volunteer work throughout her decorated career. I would advise, if it is fine with her, to reach out to her for any sort of tips, advice as we go along. Colonel Ellis currently serves on the Army's Talent Management Task Force. Previous assignments include Chief of Staff, 25th Infantry Division, Assistant Chief of Staff, G2 for the USERPAC, and Commander of the 513th Military Intelligence Brigade. And I had opportunity to work with Colonel Ellis in my time at USERPAC as well. Colonel Binning, currently the commander of the 106 Signal Brigade, so I appreciate you as a acting commander or a current commander. It must be significantly difficult to step aside. Colonel Binning has also served in a joint tour as the combined joint chief and U.S. forces in Afghanistan, J6 director for Resolute Support Headquarters in Kabul, Afghanistan. She was also formerly an active component signal majors assignment officer at HRC. Now I put that in there, probably wasn't her most significant job, but it is where I met Colonel Binning, and she assisted me along my path and assignments. So you will interact with some of these people down the road. And then lastly, Lieutenant Colonel Reyes. Many of you may not know of her. Currently the executive officer here at 5th Brigade, U.S. Army Cadet Command. I invited her. I thought it was very significant. Prior to this, she served as the first Hispanic, first woman professor of military science at New Mexico State University. And in 2018, she was recognized as the Military Science Professor of the Year. Significant feats. So this is just a limited introduction to each of them. Again, I have each of their bios that you can read over. I did hear, again, a lot of this stuff, a daunting read, if you will, if you've never seen any of this. If you have questions about it, what does this mean and what is this, what does that mean? Please ask it. All right, so at this time, I will stop talking and open it up to anybody with questions. I do have some questions queued up. All right. Yes, acknowledge the screen is blurry, but I did send those to you. All right, so the first question here is going to be from Cadet Chapman. Cadet Chapman, go ahead.
I was wondering to like all the female officers if like what keeps you going throughout the hardest days? Like what do you say, or just like what is your motivation really?
I'll jump in there. I want to be here. I made the choice to join the Army, and I believe that I should make the choice to leave the Army when I'm ready. So I try very hard to make sure that someone else does not make the decision for me. I don't want someone else's bad attitude or feelings towards me to cause me to choose a course of action I would not have otherwise chosen. So I want to be here. This is what I want to do. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean I've got to go. And so sometimes you've got to turn to a friend and let it out and vent a little bit, but don't let others decide what your path in life should be. You choose.
All right. Anyone also could jump in and answer to that. It doesn't need to be just one person if you have something else to add.
And I'll go ahead and jump in real quick, Milton. So I think just like anything, there's going to be good days and there's going to be bad days, and you just have to kind of work through and find some tools that work for you. I'll just kind of relate it to my job now. Being a PMS, I could say it's one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had. Because you see the change day by day, you see your cadets progress and then eventually commission. So it's very, very rewarding. Now as a Brigade XO, helping manage 36 brigades, 321 JRTC programs, it's more of managing. And some days, I'll tell you, the staff actions don't stop. You know, staff officers have a bad day, I have a bad day. But I think very much so, like the previous mentor said, you know, I make that choice. Yes, there's going to be days that you're not going to be happy. It's going to be a rough day. But normally when I see those days coming, or I'm having one of those days, you know, I just take a time. Like I take a little time just to gather my thoughts, gather myself, take a deep breath. And really one thing you got to realize is, why are you here? You know, you're here to help, you know, your fellow cadets, your fellow PMSs. So if you think in those kind of terms that, you know, you are here for a purpose. Sometimes that purpose might be a little challenging, but if you kind of keep a good attitude about the things that you're tasked to do that only you probably can do, I think it'll help you work through it, because it's very easy to forget why we're in the Army, what's our purpose. And you know, the other great thing, when I have bad days, I have a great staff. You know, I go talk to my staff, you know, they motivate me. So you got to kind of find what motivates you, but having a positive attitude will take you a long way.
And Colonel Milton, I would also like to jump in on that as well, and just sort of go along with what the other women are saying as well, that I think it's very key to first, even regardless of what career you choose, to know that you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days. That's just a given. That's just life. But in your chosen field, being in the Army, I think one, you have to remember, like everyone is saying, is why you're here. Why did you choose this particular career? And what are your end goals? What's your end state of being here in the Army? And so when those bad days do occur, you're not focused on that particular day. You're not focused on particular circumstances or people, but you're focused on what do you want, what's your ultimate end state. And then I think also you have to be able to, once the emotions come down on a particular bad day, and be able to step back and look at yourself and say, hey, even though this was a bad day, are my good days, or do my good days far outweigh my bad days? And as long as you're having more good days, you're enjoying yourself, you're focused on what your purpose is, and why you're doing what you're doing, then I think that's fantastic. I think it only becomes an issue when when you do take that step back, that you're having more bad days and good days, and you're not sure why you're doing what you're doing. And then I think that's where you have to reevaluate yourself, and again, reevaluate why you're in the Army. But bad days are going to come. You just have to have a plan already in place on how you personally handle bad days. What do you do to relax? What do you do to draw back? What do you do to reflect? What do you do to encourage yourself so that you can overcome those bad days? It may be bad weeks. It may be a bad month. With the pressures and demands of what's going on in a particular position that you may be in. But again, as long as overall, when you step back and look, you can see yourself making a difference, you can see yourself enjoying yourself, and you're having more good days and bad days, and I think that's what keeps me going.
All right. So I do have a question here. It is nursing related. If the brigade nurse wants to step in, that's not to suggest that any of the colonels cannot answer this. However, as none of you are nursing officers, you may not be able to. So Cadet Graham.
Yes, I was just asking, like, what advice would you have for any of the nursing majors? Like, what route should we take?
I'll go ahead and answer that. We don't have a nurse. I don't think Major Wright is on, but I think we've been very fortunate. We've had brigade. 5th Brigade has 2 nurse counselors assigned at all times, and their careers have varied from emergency room nurse, surgical assistant, a lactation nurse, and I think you guys have a great career path where there's a lot of avenues for you guys to explore. What I tell you is the best way for you to find out really what interests you as a nurse, especially in your specialty, is the summer nurse internship programs. Those are available for all the nursing cadets. I'm telling you, as a PMS, I used to push all my nurses to go. I mean, because you can serve anywhere from, a hospital in Hawaii, hospital in Korea, Germany, here stateside at Fort Sam, since it's the medical center of excellence, and you get to see a lot of specialties in nursing. So I think that's a great way to figure out what do you like and what kind of attracts you to them. Also, Major Wright just went on, but she's not allowed to unmute. So as soon as he unmutes her, she can give you more details, but I think that's a great avenue to go through and kind of figure out what's available to you and what will really appeal to you. And then I think Major Wright is trying to unmute here.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
You're good.
Okay, so I believe the question was what route you should take. Are you a pre-nursing student?
Oh, so she's muted again. Yes, she is on the nursing track.
So as far as route, if we're talking about everybody that goes in as a nurse, we all go in as a medical surgical nurse, which is a 66 hotel. So we're all, basic nurse is what they call it. And depending on your interests will depend on the route that you would take. And we all have different interests. We have OR, ER, critical care, nurse anesthetist. You can go all the way up to nurse practitioner, labor and delivery. There's so many different types of nursing, including nursing informatics, which doesn't involve, hands-on patient care. So it just depends on what your interests are. And you won't really know that until you start the actual nursing program and you attend clinicals and you start to go to these different units then you'll kind of find out what you like and what you don't like. So it's a hard question to answer right now, because you kind of have to be in that environment to see where your path will take you at that point.
So what I would like to offer to Prairie View students, Major Wright does come down frequently to Prairie View, and when she does, she announces that, and we'll make it available. So when she's here, you can one-on-one discussion with her and get those questions answered that are particular to you. All right, moving on, I do have a question from Cadet Jenkins. So I'm going to unmute you.
Hi, yes, I'm Cadet Jenkins. My question is just, how would you personally navigate a tough conversation or deal with people listening to your male counterparts over you when you guys are the same rank?
Hey, this is Colonel Tia Benning. I want to take that one because throughout your career, whether it doesn't matter what rank you are, you're going to end up in a school that is amongst your peers, and you've got to be able to hold, those intelligent conversations with them. So the first thing is, be a team player and be professional. Also know your trade. So if you're having a conversation with them and you're debating, a subject that, needs subject matter expertise in the room, know your trade and professionally be able to hold your own. Just like we're having a conversation together, that's how that conversation should go. You're two professional officers speaking to each other. It's not necessarily a male speaking to a female, but two professionals engaging in conversation. So, and it's just that easy. Sometimes, folks, look at the female nature and they think, our facial expressions sometimes come off as, showing different, giving off different types of behavior. But we have to learn as we grow and mature as professionals in this particular field. It's a male-dominated field, as in the Army. We have to learn how to control those types of things so that we can have these discussions, whether it's with another female or with a male. Over.
And Colonel Ellis did send a message to you, Cadet Jenkins. It's in the chat. And again, I'll make that available if you do not see it. All right, next question will be from Cadet Cable. Hold on while I unmute you. And also, if you're asking the question, leave your mic unmuted. That way, if you do need to follow up, I don't have to unmute you again. Cadet Cable.
Yes, sir. My question is to everyone on the panel. It's what do I tell my 8-year-old daughter who is already planning on joining the Army? Like things to look for and I guess everything.
Start with the loud whoa. Oh, that's wonderful. I think it's the same for any child. Encourage them to pursue their dreams. Whether it's the Army or something else, she needs to understand that there's some work and some preparation that she's going to need to do, and help her learn how to research and find information, and then set about preparing to do the things that she needs to do to be successful. And that's something you guys can work on together.
And hi, I would also like to add on to that as well. I think exposure is also key, like Colonel Ellis was saying. The more opportunities your daughter has to actually to see what the Army does and to see a variety of the careers that are available within the Army, then she can have a really good understanding if this is something that she's really interested in doing. So I think you're in a prime position where you can expose her to to a lot of the military, expose her to, again, a variety of things she could be doing, and then ultimately encourage that if that's something that she continues to want to pursue, by giving her the most information you can and the best information you can, so that when it's all said and done and she becomes of a particular age, she can make that decision.
So this is Lieutenant Colonel Reyes. I think, fairly young right now at 8, but I think there's a lot of opportunities for exposure. One of the great programs that we have established is not necessarily to recruit students to go into the Army or, even ROTC, but to become good citizens is the JRTC programs. There's a lot of programs across the United States at high schools that not only encourage them to, become better citizens, but they're focused on STEM, like robotics, drill and other things like drill and ceremony. So that might be a good exposure, but I think I really like that's a goal that you guys can work together, make it a thing that you guys, can work on together. Like, start taking her for runs, what I do with my daughters when I do the run, or we started doing the ACFT, we started training a little bit together and kind of give them a small taste of what the Army is and what it takes to prepare. Other things is when I was the PMS at NMSU, they used to help me set up labs, or they used to do land nav. So, kind of exposure, the kind of things that you're getting exposed to now as a cadet, and eventually as a future leader in the Army.
So I'd like to add to that, because my daughter recently surprised me and expressed interest in joining the Army as well. And she's seen me, she's lived through it herself. In fact, when she was younger, she used to say, I'm in the Army. And I used to laugh to myself and say, yes, you are, because she kept the same hours. I mean, I was getting her up at 5 something in the morning, dropping her off at daycare. And in the evenings, I was taking her back to my office to work, because I had to finish whatever I had going on at the time. And so I would recommend to her, obviously, to be prepared, and mostly, again, like everyone else has said, what interests her, and try to expose her to as much as you can in terms of those, of whatever that career field is, and then provide her the most insight possible to see if it's a good fit for her. I mean, at 8 years old, we all know that children change their minds, and she may like the Army for the next year or two and pick something completely different later on. But if this is something that she chooses to pursue, and certainly based on your career field selections, a lot of children these days, they do select the career path of their parents. And certainly when you talk military, a lot of them have family experience following in their parents' footsteps. And so I would just recommend that you continue to expose her to all parts of the life. Many times we have family events, those are really fun, but at the same time, you also need to kind of demonstrate to her that she needs to be proficient in her craft, express to her the importance of education and being well prepared, and then of course the physical fitness part as well. So I think it's a huge benefit for you to kind of incorporate that into what you're doing with her every day. It kind of brings you all closer, and gives you some more insights in terms of what type of additional exposure you can provide to her. Over.
Okay, our next question is coming from Cadet West. Cadet West, please ask your question.
Hello, all. First, I would like to say thank you for y'all being here and sharing all this information with us. My question is open to anybody who wants to answer it. But I know we can't go too much into detail with things like about opinions, but just general answers with the current events within the United States that's more so like towards minorities, us of color, women, all of that. Has that ever made you like second guess your commitment to the United States Army? And if so, what inspired you to continue going forward? I know it's similar to the first question that was asked like during hard times, but I feel like speaking on like current events that's happening in the world, it's very effective to minds of even service members, like everybody in America, but like also service members, because we're fighting for this country and, putting in that hard work. And then whenever you feel disrespected in ways, like how do you change your perspective to stay positive and just keep going forward,
Okay, this is This is Colonel Rivers. First, let me start off by saying I am so proud of every one of you from Prairie View. I want to thank Lisa for the opportunity and Lieutenant Colonel Milton for the chance to get to speak to each of you. I guess, I would start off by saying, listen, I think each of you on here, because you came on here, you have a commitment. The biggest thing is, when I wake up in the morning and I put this uniform on, there's a difference between me putting on a pair of a suit, a dress, some running shoes. There is just something about the pride of this uniform that has kept me in it for 28 years. So I have a passion for what I do. No injustice, January the 6th, competition, who is better than me, can really knock me off my feet when it comes to what I am focused on. You got to have passion about what you want to do. You got to have character of who you are. You got to be focused at Prairie View. You got to be willing to get in the dirt and stand for what you believe in. You got to be, have that endurance when it comes to physical fitness and mental capacity. You got to understand your craft. When you do all of that, all of the things, the bad days, the competition is going to come, but you're competing against yourself and the standards in which you set them high so you exceed those standards. I get your question, but I'll tell you, my sisters on here, we're not so much concerned with what's happening in the world. First of all, when you wear the uniform, you have to be apolitical. So you don't get a chance to give your opinion and do all the other stuff. Now, do we have an opinion? Absolutely. But because of January 6th, let me tell you, I shedded many of tears on that day because the fabric of our democracy was being torn. And it was being torn by people who are here, Americans, people who were former military, who were former cops. And so it really got to me from a sense of how could we do that ourselves? At the same time, the first question came to me was, what can I do better? I need to educate as many of the folks that are in my realm as possible. Educate them about how we can continue to fight and how we can do better, how you can be a better person, because it's about self-awareness. It's about you understanding you understanding your weaknesses and your strength, and being the best that you can be. That doesn't answer the question about the world itself, but I'll tell you, you'll find your path. You'll find your way in all of that minutia that's going on, but you got to focus on what's in front of you. And you got to focus on the career that you have. I'll tell you, if we all added up how many years we have on this, you'd be like, wow, we stayed because of the passion. We stayed because of the commitment. We stayed not because there were issues, and there were more issues than January the 6th, but we stayed because of our love for our country, whether they love us back, our love for our country, and for our families and the sacrifices that we made. So I would say, I want you to focus on what it is that you're gonna get into, whatever branch it is that you're gonna get in. You need to find a mentor, somebody who's been there, who got the t-shirt, who's walked the walk. And you need to make sure that you understand everything that you're gonna go through as far as what you need to know in the pathway in which you have. And then you need to make sure that your strength, your endurance, your perseverance, all of that is intact. Because just like walking into Microsoft or walking into any 500 Fortune job, you're gonna have to have the same type of tenacity and the same type of grit to survive. Life itself will knock you down if you're not strong enough.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. That did answer my question. Thank you.
Can I give an additional perspective on that? Like Colonel Rivers got me all pumped up, ready to just get after it. But I want to share something with you that, so everything that she said, we all embody that. We have to, like, we have to put it on, and we have to wear that every day. But I want to share, I think I know where you're going with this. So I was in Afghanistan when the whole Black Lives Matter thing just kind of unfolded on TV. And I was surrounded by some of our allies who, were asking, what is going on in America? And I will tell you, I would go back to my room and I would just bawl, because I was like, I feel, I was hurting.
Right.
And there weren't very many people in the small camp that I was in who was of the same rank, that I could go and share these thoughts and these inner feelings that I was having about how every day I had to put on this uniform and put on a brave face. But I had 2 daughters at home, and I had a husband at home that I was wondering, when they go out to the store, can they go out safely?
Right.
Is something gonna happen to them while I'm sitting over here in Afghanistan? I had all of these thoughts and these feelings, and it was, I would have to go and run it out of myself, and just, try to, have that brave face, that, those attributes that Colonel Rivers was just talking about. But then when I got home, I took command immediately. I had 14 days from the time I stepped off the plane to the time that I took command. And the first thing that I was told I needed to address to my brigade was the whole racism and the whole racial friction that we had. Now I'm already terrified. I'm stepping into command, and you're telling me to lay myself bare in front of my organization about a topic that that was touching me personally.
Right.
How do I do that? And the way I did it was I was genuine. They asked me, how do you feel about it, and what's your guidance to us? I said, did it hurt me to see that was happening in the country that I love? Yes, it did. It hurt. I shed many a tear. I told that to my organization. But then I also was able to share that I know a country that has done better. I remember where we were on 9/11, where you couldn't flick a pebble without hitting 2 American flags on everybody's vehicle. Like you couldn't drive past 5 cars without seeing American flags everywhere. And I had my organization remember where they were when 9/11 happened. Also, when we lost the shuttle that blew up in space, I asked them about that. Where were you when that happened? And did you cry with the person that was sitting to your left and your right? Did you care what color they were? And that's the conversation that we had. And I told them, yes, the Black Lives Matter is touching me personally and deeply. But do I know we live in a country that can do better? Absolutely. And I get to choose what I want to see in this country moving forward. So I gladly put the uniform on every single day. And I'm going to take care of each one of the personnel that's under my care within this organization as if you were my own family. I don't care what color you are. And I got so many responses in personal emails of folks that basically said, thank you for being honest, because I'm afraid to leave my house right now. Or, I didn't I'm white. I've never experienced that. I don't know what to say, to someone who is Black and who's hurting. Thank you for sharing that with me. And it grew my organization together. But I'm telling you, I had to be honest with them, because if I was, fake with them, they'd have been able to see it a mile away.
Right.
So I'm gonna hop off the mic there, but I just wanted to add to the outstanding comments of my sister, Wendy Rivers. Over.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Cadet Williams is going to ask a question about ACFT, probably brag a little, I don't know.
I can't brag about it. I didn't get a 600. But yes, thank you for being here today. I just want to ask a quick question about how do you personally feel, this is good, direct to anybody and everybody on the panel, How do you personally feel about the ACFT as far as fairness and whatnot? I actually was really surprised whenever I took it. It was pretty strenuous. I knew it was going to be demanding physically, but it was my battles who were cutting it up that I was real proud to be right here with them doing it. So I just wanted to know how you guys feel about it, because I feel like they are a good bunch of people that actually doing it without any problems. It's free and open.
Well, hi, this is Colonel Washington. I'll jump in there on the ACFT. And I think the ACFT, regardless of the physical test that the Army finally decides on, because right now, the ACFT, the Army's doing a multitude of tests. They're gathering data because the Army's required to go back to Congress to report on the data within the next year, or the outcome of the events and test failure, pass failure rates, and a whole slew of criteria that they have to present back to Congress. But I think ultimately the key is being physically fit, and making sure that whatever the test, when it's all said and done, looks like, that you're able to pass that test. And key to that is preparing yourself physically, because whether it was the APFT, you had to be physically fit. For the ACFT, again, it's different muscle groups, without a doubt, different. I think there's definitely more, in my opinion, more physical requirements that goes in, and I don't think that anyone would contest that in being prepared for the ACFT. But I think as cadets and soon to be officers and soon to be leaders who are going to be out in front of your troops, it's incumbent upon you to be ready to not only take the test, but also pass the test. Because as a leader, you're going to turn around to your soldiers and you're going to expect them to pass, not only take, but pass the test. And so I think that's the key thing, sort of what we've sort of been talking about, sort of like a theme along the way, is if this is something that the Army is your chosen career, and this is the path that you set before yourself, you have to make sure that you're ready for every element of that career. So the same way you make sure that you are subject matter expertise in your career field is the same way that you make sure that you're ready to pass the physical fitness test that the Army says this is our standard. So I think we know as it stands right now what the elements are. And again, those elements may or may not change based upon what goes before Congress and what Congress says yay or nay on. But regardless of what it is, as a leader, you have to make sure that you are able to not only take, but pass that test, and make sure you know how to train yourself properly. And in turn, that your soldiers are trained properly so that they're prepared and ready to pass that exam. So in my mind, I think it's not so much, I'm focused on the preparation of it and making sure that I'm ready, making sure my battles are ready, making sure my troops are ready, making sure my unit is ready. And then when it's finally enacted, then we're able to go out and do what we're expected to do as soldiers as it relates to the physical part of our job.
Ma'am, I love that response. I think it's the right response. It's the right response to that question. A lot of people complain or whine about it's too tough or it's too this, but go in there and do what you can do about it. As a leader, just go in there, be prepared for the test. That is an outstanding response.
I'll just add one thing. It's just an interesting detail as far as ACFT, the fact that this is the most pivotal time for it to be going through, and COVID happened. So I already think the numbers are skewed that will be sent to Congress. But I just want to know, because I have soldiers, I'm in the reserves, I'm a sergeant. So I just want to know what would be the best course of action for inspiring my soldiers that have already struggled on the regular PT test, knowing that this one is going to be more demanding. I've done as much as I can as far as, showing and inspiring them that, like, I'm doing it, I'm older than you guys, give it the program, that type of situation. And encouraging words, but you can only do so much for people who've already been in long enough and used to one type of decal. So what do you do for people who are having a problem with change? Or I just let them go, or what should be the best course of action?
Sets and reps. You gotta get them out there and get them familiar with the test without the pressure. That's why they are not allowing this to go into the system as a record test when you take the test. So it's to get them out there, get them familiar with the course without that type of pressure. And then you build it up. So right now you're talking to a group of folks who are part of the Be All You Can Be Army. We are in the transition of learning how to, execute this test when most of us, I'm pretty sure, are over, 20 years in the service, and then, test, and have had several kids, and we're transitioning to something new. But, getting familiar with the test, getting your body familiar with it, without that pressure, because we as soldiers can put that pressure on ourselves to perform. But this test is made for all around health, so we've got to learn how to train for the long term, not just push up, sit up, run like we did for years and years and years. This is overall, body composition. So if you can just get them out there, make it fun, make it fun for them, and let them build up those different body parts that they're going to be using in order to execute the test. I'll hop off the mic there.
Yeah, I'd like to add, measure yourself against the standard, not against other folks. And so sometimes someone who is not as physically gifted as perhaps you, they might feel intimidated or a little less than. And so encourage people to consistently improve and grow, and not so much on, well, you didn't get a max, or you're not as good as the fastest guy, the strongest guy. And so as Colonel Benning pointed out, the Army is looking at fitness holistically. And so there's physical, and that includes nutrition and some of the other things. And so are you encouraging people to make changes, long-term changes that they can sustain in their diet? Are you teaching them things that they can do and sustain that are interesting and fun, and that help them be physically fit, not necessarily training specifically to the test? There may be aspects of the test that need to be trained to, some of the techniques. But the point is, if you're physically fit, you'll be able to get a go. And then, set a climate and a culture where your soldiers are encouraging and supporting each other, and not feeling, again, kind of left out and behind because they're struggling and not able to keep up with everyone else. Initially, they'll get there. They've just got to work at it and build that positive environment and continue to progress slowly but surely. When I was a cadet, I was, by most people's standards, very physically fit. But I couldn't do very many push-ups. I could barely get a go. And I could not understand my roommates who seemed to just crank them out, and they maxed them out every time. And I just kept plugging away and working at it. And each time I could do, 2 or 3 more. And it took me a while to get there, but I got to a point where I could max it and do more. But I just had to slowly work at it and understand that I was built differently and had different strengths and weaknesses than my roommates. So focus again on what the standard is, know what you need to do, and slowly work at it.
All right, Cadet Levine has a question for the group.
Hello, I'm Cadet Levine. This question is for everybody. So the question is, what's your go-to self-care technique when you're busy or stressed out due to work?
I love to read. I've always got a book somewhere. I carry a book in my purse. I got a book in my car. I got a book under my pillow. I have books everywhere. So I read, I love soccer. I didn't play in school, but I will get out there and run around that field. And so each time I move, I find the local adult league and sign myself up. And it gives me a chance to meet some people that I don't work with that have nothing to do with the Army. I'm known as, hey, aren't you the one that's in the Army? And I meet some different people, and I just go out there and have a good time. And, you know, I look for teams that are there to have fun. So we socialize and do some other things. And so all of that helps me get some of the stress out. It keeps me moving, and it relaxes me. But probably the biggest thing is my family and my friends. You know, just being able to call or text whenever I need to. And, you know, you don't get to choose your family, so you may or may not have the family that can serve in that role for you, but you do get to choose your friends and know what the definition of a friend is. And so know who that is and who you're confiding in and who's got your back, and support each other. And, you know, in this day and age, it doesn't matter where you live. You guys can be millions of miles away, but you can still support each other and cheer each other up and keep each other going when you need it.
Hey, this is Colonel Washington. Yeah, I'll jump in there as well and say, for me, what's a great technique for me is it's some quiet time and being able to sort of step away from everything. I am an introvert. But by nature and, you know, being in a leadership position, we are required to be extrovert. So I say I walk and talk as an extrovert, but in reality, I'm an introvert. So for me to sort of rebalance myself, to give me that, to keep my mind balanced, to keep life balanced, I have to be able to step away and have some quiet time. So that's very key to me to do that. And when I have that quiet time, it could be anything as far as listening to music. I love to read, as Colonel Ellis was saying, but not having the space and carving out a space for me where no one is making any demands on me. No one is putting any expectations on me. No one is calling my name. It's just me, Monica, and I get that time, and I have to be intentional with that time. I can tell you, as you're going up and you're doing different things in different positions, I have not always been great at that, but now I will tell you that I am very intentional in carving out that space for me. And then when I carve out that time, however it may be, some days it may be longer than others, but whatever that time is, I guard it. It's a treasure for me, and I guard it, and I make sure that I turn off the phone so I don't have any, interruptions, no text messages coming in, family or friends calling. This is my time. This is my space for myself, so that I can bring my mind down. I can quiet my mind, and I can reflect on what things are going on at work. Maybe I'm so busy that maybe I'm missing things at work, missing things in conversations that I'm having with people, missing things personally in my interactions with family and friends, because I my mind is just going busy, busy, busy. So again, that quiet time and guarding that time is very important to me. And I have been intentional is a word that I use that has just really become a part of my lexicon, because I'm very intentional in scheduling that time, keeping that time, and making sure that I limit distractions during that time so that I can rest, I can reflect, I can regenerate, I can recuperate, whatever I need to do, so I can come back and I can do the things that I have to do personally and professionally.
So I'm glad whoever posed that question, I'm right at that point right there where I need to take some leave. So I'm going to take some leave next week. And as difficult as that is for me, because I got a lot of work on my computer and a lot of stuff, a lot of orders to get out for most of our officers, but you got to take the downtime and you got to schedule it. One thing that I normally talk about is these circles that we should have. There's a little inner circle, then there's a medium circle, and then there's a large circle. Every one of you must ensure that you have that inner circle of people that you have as a confidant, that you can talk to, that you can, throw stuff at, that they're not going to judge you. They're not going to throw it back in your face. Those are the people that you can seriously talk to. That second set of circle is, sometimes family is in that middle, that closest one, but sometimes they're on the outside, a cousin that you could laugh and joke with. They're your comrades, of your folks your best friends and things like that. And then that outer circle is just people who are just associates and things that you don't necessarily do on a regular basis with. Every now and then that's interchangeable. Just like you unfriend somebody on Facebook, you need to unfriend them from your middle circle to your outer circle to your completely out of your life because of they're not good for you or they're going in a different path. Just recently, I've had some of the sisters, even on here, had the opportunity to just say what I needed to say, because you're always so busy that you don't get a chance to really even think about yourself. And so I mean, having that time to yourself, taking a little bit, putting yourself on the calendar, go get a pedicure, don't go shopping too much because you don't want to spend too much money, but you definitely want to take some time, some downtime, because in this uniform, there's a lot. You're trying to balance family, you're trying to balance the military, your boss, the people that you're responsible for. And it's a lot. You're trying to balance friends. Some people say you didn't call, haven't talked to you in a while. And so you got to figure out where you fit in all of that. You come first. You're the first priority. And if you got family, then that's the priority. And then your work and all the other stuff that you've got going on. But you got to remember, self-care is one of the most important things to keep you going. So you can do that ACTF, and you can focus in on hurt that you might be feeling in your body. We as Tia said, we came from that era where, you don't go to the sick hall, leaders don't go to sick hall. No, I'm telling you guys now, before you come in, if you are hurt, you get looked at. You attend to those issues now before they get, too far out and too far gone with what you need to do. So keep yourself first. Put yourself on the calendar. Everybody should have a planner. You should kind of be writing out some of the things that you're planning to do this week, next month, when you graduate and things like that. And part of that on the planner is, what are you doing for yourself that week? What are you doing for yourself that month? And take care of yourself.
All right, if I can jump in. So I think one thing that we all have to understand is, just because we put ourselves first doesn't mean that we're being selfish. There's a lot of people that depend on you, that need you to be, at 100% majority of the time. I tell you, as I used to be a dual military, married to a dual military with 2 children. It took me a long time to realize I am not being selfish by earmarking time to take care of me. Perfect example, my daughters had always been in daycare, 4-day weekends come along, daycare was open on Friday, I was off. I would feel extremely guilty as a bad parent. I would put that pressure on myself if I would drop off my kids at daycare, even though it was open and I had paid for it. And it took one of the ladies, wonderful ladies that worked there, to say, it's okay. You can take this time off for you. So what I tell you is, earmark that time for yourself. Simple techniques. It took me many years to get where I'm at. And I'm not saying I'm not selfish, but if I can't take care of myself, I can't take care of no one. I come to the house, my daughters know, first 15 minutes, I always come in and tell them, hello, I'm home. I love you. Give me 15 minutes. I'll go to my bedroom. I'll get out of the uniform. I'll change it to something. I might read the Washington Post, something. I just need 15 minutes to just shed everything. And then I open my door. Girls, what are we having for dinner? What are we doing? It's the same thing, because as you grow in your career, in your positions as a leader, perfect example, EXO, and I'm more than sure these wonderful ladies, every day someone's going to ask you something. Someone is always going to be demanding something, whether it's a simple question, a complicated question, and you just need to be able to recharge yourself, whatever you find it, whether it's, hey, my daughters know Sundays, I'm getting a pedicure and a manicure. You are welcome to come, but that is the primary because that's my time. Or they know when I come home from work, if I didn't run in the morning, I got to get my little run in, and they know that's my me time. But that's what recharges me, and I can be a better parent, a better leader, just a better peer. So I really, really want you guys to learn from what my mistakes were. I would feel extremely selfish if I put some time aside for me. And then as I kind of grew, I realized, hey, it's okay. Like, you take care of everybody. You need to take care of yourself, but more than physically, mentally, coming from, the old Army, be all you can be. You're right. You couldn't go to sick call. That looks bad. If you need to go speak to a professional, talk to somebody, whether it's a counselor, whether it's a psychiatrist. Sometimes you just need to talk to someone that you don't know. And it's a safe spot. And whether it's just, you know what, I'm really having a bad relationship issue or whatever, find that person, whether it's a professional or a friend, that you can really, I hate to use these terms, but sometimes you just need to unload and just get it off your system. So what I tell you is, you come first and recharge yourself. And that's the best thing you can do, because you are not a selfish person for putting your needs and your wants first, because there are people that depend on you, and you need to be there for them.
I'm going to add one more thing to that. Learn how to say no. There's always more, there's always something to be done. And so you use some good judgment, but sometimes you just need to say no, and you can be polite about it and say, hey, I wish I could, but I'm overbooked, or I wish you had asked me sooner. But plan your time. Several folks have already said that, and make sure that you do the things that you need to do and take care of yourself, and just learn how to say no. It took me forever to figure that out. And, I had to cut sling load on a couple of folks that were in my life, because I found that every interaction with them left me angry and frustrated, and, they were not considerate of my time or my feelings. And it was like, why am I dealing with this? So I had to cut them loose, and it was probably, one of the better things that I did for my peace of mind. And so, as everyone else has said, you can't feel bad about that. You know what you need to do. Plan your time out, and do the things that put a smile on your face and relax you and center you, so that you can attend to the things that you must do.
And I would say all of that was previously said, even more during the pandemic. You're going to need to find an out. This pandemic is cramping everyone up. We're not at, people need to get out and socialize. So even the introverts still need to socialize, and you're being restricted from that significantly. So you got to find an out, and it's really important for now as well. Next question, Cadet Brooks, Beyonce Brooks.
Hi, thank you all again. My question is, this for anyone, but do you believe your soldiers show a different level of respect compared to male officers? If not, have you seen something to where you happen to like correct a soldier, or something that's put you in that place before?
That's an interesting one. I wouldn't say it's a different level of respect. I think there's some experiences that I think are common to all female officers, that things that happen more frequently that should not, people not saluting or, not calling you ma'am, those sorts of things. But I don't know that it's that your soldiers just automatically have less respect for you. Sometimes I think people they don't see you. When they see a Black female coming their way, sometimes I don't think they expect to see the rank on the chest that's coming their way, and they completely miss it. Others, it might be something different, but either way, you've got to make a choice on how you're going to handle that. Those things definitely happen. I recall when I was a battalion commander, one of my majors couldn't call me ma'am. He said sir all the time. I'm like, hey, you've got a female battalion commander. I'm the only person in this unit that outranks you. So I had to pull him to the side. I corrected him a couple of times, and then I had to yank him up hard, one-on-one, and make sure that he understood that if he couldn't get it straight, he was going to have a more serious problem. And after that, I didn't have another problem with him. So occasionally you're going to have to handle things in a more, I'll say, disciplined manner.
So the generation gap is a little different, with the panel members and what you guys are going to be facing. So we remember our moms and our grandmothers and the struggles that they faced. And, you're seeing the things that are happening now. And I would tell you to make sure that you're abreast of history of what's happened and who struggled to get where they are. We stand on the shoulders of some mighty pioneers who we probably wouldn't even be in this uniform with the rank we're wearing because of it. And so I don't tend to struggle with finding a balance of whether women or men are sort of equal. I remember when I was in ROTC, I thought I knew everything about the military. I was ready to go. It's a little different. It's very different. And I'll go back to January 6th in that we are guided by a whole lot of rules. What you're putting on social media right now, whether it be good or bad, there's a regulation for it, what you can and cannot post, how you wear your hair. I mean, although some of that has changed now, we are guided by a lot of things. Your opinions matter, but they are tapered with what you can and cannot do. So in the military, you're an ROTC and many things of what you're doing right now is not regulated. It is sort of regulated when you put this uniform on of what you can and cannot do. So when it comes to male and females, I tend to just know my craft. I know my regulation. I know what looks wrong and what looks right. And I correct regardless of gender. So you got to own your space and time. And when you see something wrong, it's not necessarily that everything's a battle, but it is important for you to right the wrong. It is important for you to show people what right looks like. So the struggle isn't so much of, is a female more than a male, or the respect in that situation is more of you understanding what power you have. Okay, you should never feel any less than anybody else, and don't let anybody make you feel that way. When you speak with confidence. You know your craft, and you've heard us say that so many times. Whatever you're going into, know it, understand it. Be the SME that the boss is looking for. You know, you should have under wraps just the basics of what you're supposed to do and know, and then venturing out into different things. So they'll say, hey, I want to call Jenny because, you know, last time Jenny answered that question, I really want because she is well versed. You know, when you start getting picked out by the boss or somebody who heard you speak because, you know, you've got that answer and you know what's going on, you.
I think we might have cut out.
Yeah.
Okay. That was mid engagement. All right, if she comes back on, we can continue on that one.
Can I add on to that one? I know we probably hit that one pretty good, but I also want to propose to you as a prior service soldier. So even though I went to the South Carolina State University, and came out with my degree, but I did not do the ROTC program. So I actually joined the military on the enlisted side, and I was enlisted for 4 years before I went to OCS. That's how I gained my commission. I will tell you, soldiers really just want good leaders. They want folks that they can follow, male, females alike. So if you show up to your organization and you show the soldiers you care about them, and I'm not talking about passing out candy and just, you know, being nice and trying to be, you know, friends with them. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking, you know, being fair, being firm, and being transparent, and being a good example for them, being able to do what you're asking them to do. They will follow you anywhere. And the one thing that we kind of forget sometimes, when they take their first oath, and they're going to do it, you know, plenty of times, they take a different oath than what we take as officers. And there's a line in there that says, I will obey the orders of the President of the United States and the orders of the officers appointed over me. They take that oath before they even met you. They've taken that oath and they've promised, I'm going to follow the person that is put in charge of me. So now that means you have to show up, and you show up with how you are going to lead and how you're going to make it fun for them and make it, you know, a lifetime commitment that they love to take because they get to follow you, and they will follow you to the end of the earth every single time.
All right. Next, we have a question from Cadet Posey Cunningham.
Yes, I was just asking because I'm a very family oriented person. How do you all balance family life with the demands of the job, and what are some of the key values, or what type of structure do y'all have at home to help, you know, with all of what you all have going on?
I know I got cut off the last time. I'm sorry, but Lisa, you wanted to go?
No, Wendy, I really wanted you to finish because I love to hear you speak.
So let me take the family piece, because I think Tia, you know, my battle buddy, closed me out on that one. So I appreciate that. It was good stuff. So I've been a single parent my entire career. I'm 28 years and I'm just getting engaged. So let me just tell you, it is not an easy fate. When in the military, it doesn't matter what your rank is, you still need to make it to the child care center at the same time as a sergeant, at the same time as a general, whoever's got baby there. And so here's the deal. You have to understand balance. And I don't know that we'll ever, I don't know that we'll ever master balance. I started teaching family care plan and single parent every unit I was at, you know, across in Germany and here, only because I wanted people who were either dual military or single parents to understand how important the Saturday and Sunday was, getting to the cleaners, getting to the grocery store, making sure you get homework done. You know, if you work late, you got to figure out what that schedule is for your kids, and having to make your kids be a little more growner than most normal families who are not in the military, giving them, you know, that extra boost of, okay, you're in charge of this, and you're in charge of the hot dogs, and you're in charge. It's a balance. I'll tell you, if you're coming in the military, you've got to have a family tree of some sort of support. My mother did a few things for me, taking care of the kids when I went to school, but she wasn't always available to do so. A lot of my support came from my military family, just coming on base and going to a church, and they were like, we can help in any way we can. We got babysitters. And you have got to, if you're an extrovert or introvert, you've got to speak up and be able to say, I need help. One thing I'll tell you, a single parent or a dual military parent, or, you know, for me, it was hard for me to ask for help. I had to get out of that very quickly. And I had to say, listen, I need help. And whether it's a cousin that's coming to stay, your mom's coming to stay with you, you have got to make sure that you've got some type of support to help you through this. Now, we made it through, all of us, whether we're married or not on this panel. At some point, we were all just struggling to make sure kids are at their baseball game and at their soccer game and gymnastics. And we were running from here to here, from class or from a meeting to get there, almost late, but we made it. You got to be able to juggle. You got to be able to meet the demands of your job. And you've also got to make sure that your family doesn't come last. Now, my daughter will tell you, she was in 6 different schools within, you know, how many years. I don't believe her, but she counts it out if you ask her. And rightly so. She is a resilient young lady. It took all of that and understanding that this is the military life. So you got to understand what you're coming into. It's a beautiful life. Uncle Sam gave us so many beautiful things. We're able to do so many and see the world. At the same time, you got to have balance, and you got to be able to have that circle that I talked about, the outer circle that you might have to go to figure out how do you get help, because you're not in this by yourself. Over.
More family discussion.
So I can add to that. I tell you, my situation is similar to Colonel Rivers. If I've been a single parent here for my daughter's 14 now, and even when we were married, because I'm divorced now, it was a challenge. So when you're in the military, all these things that we've been talking about, having a balance and making sure that you refresh yourself, those things are very challenging, because when you know your craft and you're working so hard at it and you become that go-to person, there's a great pride and confidence that comes with that. Your soldiers will serve you because they want to be a part of the winning team. They like being a part of the team where the service member is proficient, they're respectful, they're protected. You're doing all these things for them. But guess what? When you come home, you're just changing hats. You don't get off. Mom doesn't get a sick day. And if it's single parent, single dad, or dual military, you don't get that sick day. It's very difficult. And so for me, one of the things I used to do was, I thought, okay, I'm tired, but I can't come home and just sleep. You just don't get that option. And so I would build things into what's important to my daughter. She runs track. How do I make that happen for her, because she's good at it? I don't want her to miss opportunities, and her different sports and so forth. And so when we lived overseas, it was fantastic. I would always try to plan something, because you don't have the benefit of quantity. So you just have to, with the time you have left, you have to make it quality. And so we traveled a lot, and our big thing was, okay, we want to go to all the Disney worlds, there are 13 parks. Okay, we've only missed 2, and only because they built the one in Shanghai after we left, and then the one in Disney World, the very first Disneyland, is because they had a measles outbreak, and so I was like, forget it, we'll try again later. So that's still on our list. But I tell you, it is very difficult, and part of what I'm thinking about is just a holistic answer to the numerous questions that you all have asked. And it is a challenge, but for the family part, family is very important to me. The one thing that we all know is that when we leave the military, the family that we cultivate, that we work with, that's the one we're going home to. So we're going to leave our military family, and it's great that we've had them, but we're going to go back to this nuclear family that we have. And we want to make sure that those relationships have been, have been cultivated, and they're not angry and saying, oh, well, remember this, you left me here. I was, you weren't available when I needed you. And so I try to focus on cultivating that relationship with her, because she is important to me. And although she recognizes at the same time that, what, mom works. And so we're getting better at it. I'm on leave right now. And so that was a big deal in terms of striking a balance. And I only took 4 days, but you know what, we're doing that. And we're going to go out and do some fun things while I'm off. And so you, again, like Colonel Washington said, you have to be deliberate. And you also have to, again, try to strike boundaries and do it tastefully, such that, you're not coming across as angry or apathetic and things like that. And so you have to be, I will tell you, in my experience with my service members, I was fortunate in some instances where we developed such a bond in terms of their relationship and respect for me, that we would go into situations, and if they felt more often that, hey, I didn't like how they talked to you or something of that nature, and my soldiers would say, man, we got your back. It's really funny. I say that because being signal, and I grew up signal, we'd have to go to these recons, and there'd be all this big group of people, and everybody's trying to, strike a balance. They were like trying to levy for, I need this space and we need to do this. But at the end of the day, signal space had to come first, because we needed line of sight so everyone could communicate. And so I think back on that, and to answer some of the cadets' questions, I never felt like that people didn't respect my opinion. I felt like the people around me were, I think, more defensive at times for on my behalf, which I thought was good. Have I worked in scenarios where I was more in a civilian location in the past, where they always referred to me by my first name, and all the male officers were referred to by their rank? I did notice that. But I think that over time, I think the one thing that I would like to share with you all, if we don't leave you with anything else, and I think you've heard it time and time again, is you have to be proficient. Certainly you have to be good at your craft. And then I think that we're also trying to tell you to do things that maybe in some instances we haven't always been good at, which is striking a balance, right? And so what I just really encourage you all to do, though, is to certainly take the time to, again, refresh yourself, replenish yourself, take the time to be the best that you can be. Because when you do that, you're going to be the best parent, you're going to be the best officer, you're going to be the best leader, you're going to be the best at what you can be when you take the time to take care of yourself and do the things that you need. Because being good, being a subject matter expert requires constant care. Being a good family member, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, you name it, requires that constant refreshment for yourself, so that you can be listening attentively, looking for the critical things that may make a difference. And you're always going to be, there's always a trade-off. So the point I'm making is, right now in school, there's a certain flow to classes, and you're constantly balancing. Once you graduate, you go into the military, it's going to be the same thing. Your challenge is going to be to understand the new system that you're interacting within, and then certainly going about striking that balance so that you continue to maintain a healthy medium for yourself and for others, so that you can continue to be productive. And I think once you do that, you're going to recognize that joining the military, the profession of arms, is the most rewarding experience that you could have. I don't think you'll ever regret it. And then more importantly, you'll see that there's something bigger than yourself, and contributing to that, making a difference, and having that story to say to your family, you know what, when I was given the opportunity, I served. I think you'll be really proud of your decisions, and we certainly look forward to serving with you moving forward. So that's all I have. Over.
I just wanted to mention that Colonel Whittaker is on leave. And I know that previously one of the colonels had mentioned take your time, and she's about to go on leave. You'll find the more senior you get, it is almost impossible to take the leave that the Army gives you. You'll build it up significantly, and then they have this thing called use or lose. It is very difficult to escape from work at sometimes. The next question comes from Cadet Rogers.
Hey, wait, Colonel Kimball, let me just throw something in there on this leave, because it can be very challenging to take leave. you have got to be very deliberate about it. Plan it way far in advance. You know, look at the long range training calendar, go pay a visit to the S3 shop. Don't plan your leave during, you know, a CTC rotation, a brigade exercise or something major. Find a nice spot, block some time. Even if you don't know what you're going to do yet, just block the time. Give yourself a little bit more time than you think you might want. Go communicate and have a conversation with your boss, put it on the calendar, and then you can figure out what you're going to do and where you're going to go and how you're going to do it. And it's a lot easier to take that time if your boss has been tracking all along. And so oftentimes we wait until we are ready to go on that vacation and purchase the plane ticket to bring it up. And it's so hard to figure it out. So just, you know, plan for, you know, it's March now. I'm going to take 2 weeks in October. Go have the conversation with your boss, get it on the calendar, and you can figure out what you're going to do in October later.
Very important. Yes, ma'am. It's very difficult the more senior you get. All right, Cadet Rogers.
Hello, I'm Cadet Rogers. My question was, how often do you work out? And also, what would you recommend for future officers on how much they should work out or workout plans?
I would say that how often is kind of a tricky way to put it. I would say how much time I have to do it rather than how often. As a lieutenant, you know, I did PT every day with my unit, but I also went to the gym every day after work and on the weekends. So on Sundays after church, I'd go change and spend hours at the gym and then go do my thing. But I had more time and I was able to do that. I don't have the same amount of time to do PT with my unit and go to the gym every day. And so what you've got to do is based on, you know, you may be in an organization that does not do organized PT. If you're in that kind of unit, you have to be very disciplined, figure out what time works best for you. So you may have to get up very early in the morning, or you might need to do it in the evening. You might need to invest in some equipment and have your own home gym. And know yourself. If you know that you don't have the discipline, you know, my sister has what she calls her accountability buddy. And she's got a friend, and the two of them beat each other up and, you know, kind of tease and taunt and push each other. And during this pandemic, they've both lost a lot of weight and gotten really fit, but they remind each other, hey, you got to work out. Hey, when we go back to the office. So figure out what time frame works for you. As lieutenants, you're probably going to be in units that do PT every day, but if you're not a Cadet Williams, maybe you need to take a little bit of extra time and work out a little bit more, and know that about yourself. If that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do. You can also do stuff in the office. Bring in a yoga mat, have it set up behind your desk and drop every now and then and knock out some push-ups and crunches or whatever. You know, install a chin-up bar if you need to. Just get creative. But you're going to need to be consistent. And, you know, if you miss a day or two because you traveled somewhere, you'll be okay if you're consistent. But you can't work out once or twice a week and do what you got to do. So almost every day is probably the answer that you.
I think if I can jump in, so the more senior you grow in your career, you'll be getting more responsibility. And there'll be units where you are not doing organized PT, and as a professional, you have to motivate yourself and you have to make that time. I love CrossFit. I mean, I would go to instead of lunch. That's where my to-go place was. But with the pandemic, I know that I want to keep my family safe. But my option is I've always loved to run. So what I do is I run at least 3 short runs a week, Saturday and Sunday. It's anything over 5 miles. And that just does 2 things. One, keeps me healthy. As you age, you'll realize that it's a lot harder to keep slim. So I know, I've got to work on it a little bit. But the other thing is it's about knowing yourself. I knew I wasn't going to do well on the leg tuck for the ACFT. So what did I do? I installed a pull-up bar in my office, my doorwell. So, I know my staff sometimes walks by and they giggle, but, I find time, whether I do some ab works or, knees, toes to bars or whatever. So I kind of find a way to make that time, because it doesn't take much time just to take off your top and then, do a couple of toes to bars. So it really, you have to be able to know yourself. I had a goal that I wanted to, max my sit-ups. So I found the time, and at work, I would, knock out a couple of sit-ups here or there. So know who you are, know where you need to work out, and then incorporate that into your plan. We have some great resources in the Army that are free. There's nutritionists here if you're kind of interested. I did go vegetarian for about 8 months after I saw this great film on Netflix. And I went to see a nutritionist here at the local clinic, and they gave me great tips. So there's a lot of resources that if you don't know where to start or develop that PT program, reach out to someone in your unit, MRT2 trained person, somewhere at the local medical clinic that can help you with your diet. But you've got plenty of resources where you can tailor a PT program, nutrition program around your needs, because all of us are different. Some of us need a little more work, running, sit-ups, push-ups, whatever it is, but there's resources out there. You're not alone. It's just trying to make that change and, motivating yourself. Because honestly, there's a lot of times where, you have to motivate yourself, and you are the one that has to, even though no one's looking around, and maybe you might have to do PT on your own, that you're COVID, there's no one really checking to see that you're doing your homework, but you have to be accountable to yourself. So there's resources out there just to help you out and get you on the right path.
All right, before we move on, I just want to address something. So I'm fairly big into physical fitness, and I may come off a little strong in that capacity. I would like to state that, and I ask for concurrence or maybe not from the panel. Again, physical fitness is not everything. It isn't everything. There is leadership. There's other things that is required, and I don't even know that physical fitness would be considered the most important thing. If you're a great leader and you're not the most physical fit person, then you can excel, and your soldiers will still follow you. And I think that was previously mentioned. I would like to say that physical fitness does open doors. I think if you were to look back 20 years ago to a little bit over 20 years ago to Private Campbell, no way does Private Campbell make Lieutenant Colonel if he's not physically fit, because that just opened the door for me. That's not to say that that's the only thing that I'm good at. It just opened the door and gave me an option in there. And I would like to share that with everyone. Physical fitness is not the only thing. And I don't want that to come across as if you are not physically fit, then Lieutenant Colonel Campbell or the Army doesn't care about you. However, being physically fit does open that door, just like being a good leader and being tactically proficient as well. So I know that there's a lot of pressure with physical fitness. We keep talking about it. We're always cramming physical fitness down your throat. I think it's important, but it's not the only thing. And I don't want to get too carried away with that. But again, being physically fit does, military aside, I think being physically fit as a person just enables you to live, you have more longevity, you're able to wake up and do things without, pains, as long as you don't overdo it. So I think it's important to address physical fitness, but not to make it the only thing in your life. Those are just my thoughts.
I will share with you though, in my experience,
We need a SIGO to fix this.
And I like to just go ahead, Lisa.
Thanks, Monica. No, so I was
I
going
didn't
to
want
say,
to. we'll see if Lisa comes back and she can want to say something, Lieutenant Colonel Campbell, just on what you just stated and what everyone has been saying about physical fitness. And I'm sorry, Lisa, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that physical fitness just helps you become more resilient, at least in my experience. And certainly it provides you a good outlet. So on a stressful day to go work out and come back, I personally feel better. And then more importantly, in terms of the frequency, I was just very fortunate. I live right here on Tripler. And so the physical therapy department has an ACFT training group, and they offer it twice a day, 3 times a week. And so it just helps me, I think, in terms of working out with people that if you injure yourself, those are the same people that will help you recover. And so to me, it was just a wise decision, and it was very helpful. But to Lieutenant Colonel Campbell's point, it's not everything, but I will say that I came up at Fort Bragg, and I can tell you as a lieutenant, my first sergeant, when I first got there, he said, "Do you want to be successful?" I said, "Yes." He said, that's right, okay. He said, "Well, you need to be able to run." He said, "If you can run," he said, "your day starts out good." He said, "And you'll continue." He said, "We'll work with you with anything else." He said, "But if you can't run," he said, "your day will start out bad and it will get worse from there." And so unfortunately, the era that I came up in, physical fitness was linked to your performance, was linked to how people perceived you, linked to, again, potential success. Because if you were proficient in that basic area, then of course I found that people were more willing to come forward and share more knowledge. And more importantly, I was willing to listen and to be taught. And so I think that the intent is not to have people shy away or feel like that physical fitness is the end all be all. But I will say that for many reasons, the military is going to a different test, the ACFT, that does require strength in different muscle areas, because I think that we're looking for, again, the holistic health and fitness that comes with that. And more importantly, it'll provide you ideally a better quality of life for a longer period of time. And then more importantly, reduce from a military perspective, ideally less medical issues as well. So thank you.
Can I also just add one small piece to everything that was just said, which was said so wonderfully, Lisa. You know, we don't like to talk about it, but that stigma. So to all the young ladies that are in the group, you know, and Black females that are in the group who have not, you know, signed on just yet, and you have this time. You know, it was, you know, hey, we can sprint, you know, we might be able to, you know, win a 100-meter or a 200, but we can't run long distance, you know, and it was kind of like a stigma. Now, maybe that was just in the be all you can be Army, you know, because we're talking about kind of how we grew up. And you could see that across the organization, but then there would be, you know, a select few that could get out there and get it with the best of them. So, you know, just like it was said before, that did open up doors. It did set you apart from, you know, your peers, and it did kill some of those stigmas that would come along with, you know, being a Black female. It was like, I was told as a specialist, Black females can't run, until I got out there and I smoked the majority of my organization, you know, when I didn't say anything, I didn't tell them anything. Not only did I get out there and smoke them on the run, but I called cadence for 1.5 miles and I tore it up. I mean, it was just those types of things, just killing those stigmas that are out there. So this is what I would say to you, because y'all are probably saying, I'm not a good runner. Like, what am I supposed to do? Set goals for yourself. That's all you have to do. And it was said earlier, you know, that you don't have to compete against everybody, compete against yourself. So if you're running a 9-minute mile right now, then push yourself to knock 10 seconds off of that. I didn't say a whole 2 minutes, knock 10 seconds off and figure out what you have to do to start reaching your goals while you don't have that pressure cooker, you know, on you right now. Set those goals for yourself and then get in a group with each other and then hold each other accountable. So that's all I have on that. Over.
I just wanted somebody else to talk about fitness other than me, because the cadets are probably sick of me talking about that all the time and think that I'm only one track. It's not. It's not. I swear it's not. All right.
So let me throw one more thing out there for you. And when you think about fitness, that is one way for you to distinguish yourself from your peers, and it's something that you own. No one else controls that but you. There's nothing subjective about physical fitness.
Yes, and you could do fitness at home, whereas you probably can't shoot that M4 at home. So
some may have to work at it harder than others. Some may be good in certain aspects of it, but there are many, many components to physical fitness, and you own it. So, take that, and that's something that you can excel in, and nobody can take that from you.
Cadet Jenkins, I have a question from Cadet Jenkins, another one. Floor is yours.
Yes, so I have another question. This is for anybody. What are some resources that have helped you throughout your career overall? And that can be resources inside or outside of the Army, just any resources that you feel have impacted your career in a positive way.
Are you talking organizations or what?
Yes, ma'am. Just like any organizations or resources that may have helped you. I guess like, if you have children and you were taking your kids to like daycare or anything like that, but just resources that would possibly help us as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll be honest, my resources have been some of the women on this panel. And I would say in terms of relationships, right? And I think Colonel Rivers said it best. And Colonel Washington, I am a very strong I, natural introvert. And so I had to learn how to become a learned E. And I've learned that I can only do it for short spurts because it exhausts me to be an extrovert. It's just not, it's not part of my DNA. But I will say that relationships are going to be key for you because you don't have all the answers. And so if you have a person that you can reach out to and they can provide you insight and or lead you to an entity, an organization that can help you, I think that would be key. I think the Army has lots of organizations available to you that you can take advantage of depending on your situation. But I would recommend to you up front to develop relationships, meaningful relationships in terms of, develop a mentor or a coach that can help you in the areas that are most important to you. So clearly, pick someone that is very proficient in an area that is of interest to you, and then see if they can help guide you and move forward. So I think that would be something that you would do more important than a lot of things, because there's always going to be an organization. They come and go, but I think that sometimes, I personally prefer to live vicariously through others. You don't have to make the mistake on your own. You can just actually talk to others and get some sound advice and move forward. Over.
So I'll tell you that I'm probably one of the many officers who've used almost every resource that the Army has to provide, only because I was dubbed the officer that helped everybody. If your wife didn't know how to get a driver's license in Germany, I was right there to help, and they weren't even my soldiers. So ACS was my friend. I knew every program ACS had because I came in the Army. My mom had to sign for my son. And then I quickly got him back to a lawyer, so it was some weird ways. You can't come in as a single parent, but we did, and we got it back. And so having to be a single parent for the school, for ACS, and him going to, the CDC and all, I got to know all those people very well, friends. I would go in and I would volunteer. And then transportation, you know, I happen to be at the same transportation shipping my car, I think 4 times. I was 4 tours in Germany. So I got to know those people really well. So if they're going to fail me, they're going, Miss Rivers, we get ready to fail you. And I was like, wait. So I'm glad you asked that question, because most people don't really talk about resources, you know, in the military, but as a single parent, it was crucial. CYS, the central YS system, where, you know, after your kids leave daycare, they can go to the, you know, the youth services to support, you know, man, I love them. I was like, yeah, you go over there. He knew how to get there. So those are the types of things. It's going to be based on if you come in, you're single, okay, then, you know, the natural thing is, when you're going to places, like say you're getting ready to ship your car and stuff, get to know the people, you know, you go to the mess hall. I talk to the people the cooks. I talk to the mess hall chief, you know, with the people who clean in my hall right now. I know everything about their life and when they're going to school and different things like that. So you know, introvert, extrovert, you know, those play a part when you're trying to do some things for yourself. But when it comes to you being a leader, you have to go in and out of those areas. I try real hard to be an introvert. It's just not working for me. I'm gonna have to work with Lisa, you know, to get some more pointers on how to be an introvert. Now, extrovert, you know, you need me to do something in the world, I got it. I mean, you need me to talk, I'm gonna talk. But when it comes to your career, I want you to figure out, what is it that I need? I even talked to a psychiatrist. I was deployed to Bosnia, found out I was pregnant, fell out in church. They took me to the lady at the hospital, and I refused to believe that I was pregnant. I told her, no way, Jose, I already got a son. I got this wrapped up. I don't need another kid. I was in denial, y'all. And I'm being transparent with you. And they had to take me to the 5th floor. You know, that's the psych ward, because they was like, she's not getting it. So the lady told me, I'm going to show it to you. You are pregnant. And so I had to leave Bosnia. I was worried about a whole lot of things. I went straight to, psych when I got back. And I'll tell you, that lady put me back on track. And you know what she said to me? When I walked in to see her, she said, tell me a little bit about yourself. And the first thing I said was, I'm Lieutenant Rivers, and I went to Bosnia. I crossed the Sava River in 2 days. I kept my people safe, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, what the heck? Like, what is she talking about? So she said, excuse me, can I stop you for a second? I was like, sure. And she was like, can you go outside the door? And I was thinking, why would you want me to walk outside and come back in? But she said, could you do that for me? Just placate me for a second. So I did. I went outside, came back in, and she says, now I want you to explain who you really are, because you got Lieutenant Rivers down pat. Lost your identity of Wendy, because I was just like, I wasn't hearing what was happening in my life, figuring out. And that's where you fall off, and somebody's got to put you back on. So I was never afraid to talk to anyone, including anything that deals with my psyche, because I need to be on point always. She put me back on track to figure out that not only am I a lieutenant, promotable lieutenant, but that I was Wendy. I was a human being that could make mistakes, things could fall off. You didn't have everything in control, and that you needed to know how to put things back together when you do lose that control, or when you lose balance of yourself. And so I'll tell you, it matters for you understanding what resources are available on post, off post. What do you need? Attend to your needs. Don't put them off to the side, and make sure that, you know, you're covered in all the things that you need. Over.
I do have an extension to that last question. This was private message to me, and it kind of follows along the resources. What tips, or what are some tips that you have on saving money in the military and making your military check work more for you, and as you make more money? Money tips, financial advice, please.
I'd like to take that one if you don't mind.
Yes, ma'am.
So numbers run in my head, so I'm good with numbers. So my recommendation up front would be, and particularly with the group in here, as you come in, I would recommend that you invest in TSP, for example. But I think the best thing that you can do is to have it automatically deposited into an account. So when you go through that, then you don't have to risk having that money reprioritized for something else. It's automatically deposited into the account of choice. So TSP is an option. I always recommend that people have an emergency fund. And then as you continue to progress, certainly try to live beneath your means. But then, don't get the new car. If you recommend that you read The Millionaire Next Door, it's a book that I read years ago, held me in good stead. But you'll find that for people that live beneath their means and they save continuously, time value of money is your friend. And so when you understand, compound interest, it works for you when you're saving. It works against you when you're buying on credit. So I just share that with you up front. That would be my recommendation, unless you have some more specific questions. Over.
I'm going to double down on that direct deposit, because when it comes out and you don't actually see the money, it just goes straight to whoever you need to pay it. It's a lot less painful, because handing over $1,000 a month is difficult, whether you think so or not. I don't know. The first time I had to pay money for a paint job on my car, I think it was very difficult to hand over that money, versus if it comes out of your check and completely skips you and you just don't see it, DFAST sends it straight to who it needs to get sent to. I think that makes it a lot easier, and then you don't risk spending it. I think Colonel Reyes, you had something.
Yeah, so I think so. I was not commissioned through ROTC. I think I went through the hard way. I had a bachelor's degree and kind of went through a little crisis. I was going to pre-dental school and then decided I was going to be a dentist, so I just enlisted. And then after 4 years, I was commissioned through the OCS program. So I went from being, a promotable sergeant, and then all of a sudden I got commissioned as a second lieutenant. So that paycheck went from here to here, which luckily I always lived below my means. But the way I thought about it is an opportunity. I just got a raise. I lived without those funds for 4 years. Now all of a sudden I gave myself a raise. So what I did is I just put that money, that raise, a direct deposit, put it away. And that way I didn't feel it. It was like I paid myself first. And then, as I went through, I went and found a financial advisor so I can start, a Roth IRA. I invested in the TSP. And as soon as a plan that we did is, as soon as one of our daughters were born, the first month they were born, I started a college fund. And every month, I would put a little bit away. And then every time I got promoted or got a raise, guess what? Or I was deployed, that was extra income. I always saw that as, hey, you know what? I lived without that little extra chunk of change or money. It's not going to hurt me to put it away. But you have to be very disciplined about taking care of money and managing money. So if you start early and make it a habit, saving and taking care of yourself and putting a little bit away, it will help you in the long run. But it's a habit that you need to start early on. And like I said, everybody's great. They always tell you, hey, all of a sudden I got a raise. Don't take it as an opportunity of more money to spend on, new shoes, whatever. Take it as an opportunity. Hey, I've got a little extra income that I could put away. And every penny you put away is a penny saved. Start small, and build some goals there for yourself.
I would like to add, you got to do all the savings things, but everyone's mentioned living within your means. And to me, that means don't look at what everyone else is doing and try to replicate that. You don't know what other folks have got. Don't try to spend other folks' money. So, buy a car that fits your budget. You don't have to have a fancy new car. You don't have to, have a luxury model car that takes premium gas And every time, you know, there's some maintenance, it costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars. That's a lot on a lieutenant's salary. And there's a reason why it's called a luxury car. It's not a starter car. As a lieutenant, you are entering the workforce. And so luxury car and entering the workforce, those things are not on the same plane. When everyone else is going out to eat lunch every day, perhaps consider packing your lunch. It's more cost effective and it's better for your health and your weight. You know, if you take care of your clothes, they'll last a long time. You know, be careful how you treat your clothes and your clothes and your shoes, because you're wearing a uniform to work every day. So your civilian clothes, if you're maintaining your weight and you're treating them with care, they'll last for a while. So just take care of your stuff, treat it with care. Don't try to do what everyone else is doing and spend money on crazy things. If you feel like you want to impulsively buy something that costs quite a bit of money, wait a week, wait 2 weeks and see if you still feel the same about it before you go out and purchase it. And for things that you need that cost a lot of money, plan it. You know, certain sales occur at the same time every year. And so, you know, when kids are going back to school, computers go on sale, electronics go on periods to get the best deals that you can.
All right, it is getting close to 1700 and I do not want to overindulge and overexpend your time. I do have 3 questions remaining that I would like to address. However, I do understand if any one of you have to jump off, and cadets stand fast. It's your place of duty. But I do have questions. First one coming from Cadet Williams again. Mic is yours.
The question was just for the branches that you chose, if you got the selected branch, how did you go into choosing and saying, this is the one for me, if you were able to choose the one off the OML list?
I got my first choice and I will tell you all, I'm an aberration. So I'm career signal, but last year I actually transitioned to cyber and I'm happy with it. I chose signal. Primarily I was influenced by my father, who was a retired signal first sergeant. And when I was younger, they jumped into foreign land. I know he was in Honduras, but in any event, they went down there for something and he actually was on the phone. He called us. I was like, I thought you were in the field or something. He's like, I am. I was like, so what do you do? So odd question, because a lot of times your family member doesn't know what you do in the military. But long story short, I thought it was really cool that he took his computers and everything to the field with him. And then fast forward to being a cadet, I'll just shamelessly tell you that we called it branch shopping at the time. Each week there was a different branch that we were exposed to. And on this particular day, we were walking up a mountain. It was hot. I wore glasses at the time. We walked into the signal shelter. My glasses fogged up. And I was like, oh, it was air conditioned. And I thought, this is the career for me. And they said, well, guess what? When you become a lieutenant, you'll get your own vehicle. I was like, really? They said, yes, you won't have to be, you know, road marching and things like that. I was sold. So I signed up for signal. The rest is history. I enjoy it, you know. And then more importantly, I just recently transitioned to cyber because I actually love that mission. And that's the new thing. So I chose that and I enjoy what I do every day. And so that's the thing. You're never really working when you enjoy what you're doing, and recognizing that the virtual domain is key right now. It's basically a thread that runs through every fabric of everything that we do, both in our professional and personal lives. And I just like working in terms of defending our mission and our nation from that perspective. Over.
So I was a branch detail. My branch was signal, but it was overcrowded at the time. So I went into chemical. Now I was like, I don't know nothing about chemical. I did have a good time. We did some fabulous things. But at the 2-year mark, I switched back over and got it back into signal. Now, what I currently do right now, I'm responsible for all signal, cyber, MI, and every functional area out there under I've got 15 functional areas. So that's public affairs office, strategic strat intel, our data network guys that are 26s. I'm responsible for, the foreign area officers. So all 15 of those functional areas are under my division. And so I would say for your branch, you have to sort of know what you want to get into. What do you want to do? You got to do some research and really think what I enjoy. And that might be getting yourself exposed to some of the branches that come out and speak. Or again, you could tap into me. I could, have some of my guys kind of give a brief on what the different branches offer. But you got to get exposed to it, because just saying I'm going infantry because I want to go infantry, you got to have some passion about it. I'm like Lisa, Signal was my thing. I love gadgets and I got to have a whole bunch of them. I knew Signal was for me, and so it was something I knew what I wanted to do. So I just ask that you do that, figure out before you dive into it. Is it really something that you want to do? I went to Fort Valley State, really loved my my school, and just enjoyed the ROTC piece of that. And coming in, I was pretty satisfied, even as a branch detail officer. Over.
I think the takeaway is go Signal.
What?
Hey, well, I'm going to jump in. I'm not Signal, so I am transportation, and now we're called multifunctional logistician. So, but I entered transportation, same thing as Lisa mentioned, as a cadet, you had your branch, you were looking around for your branch, and they had branch days and you could talk to everyone. And what interested, I guess my primary interest was the variety of the field in transportation. When you think transportation, everyone's like, oh, you're talking about driving trucks. Well, transportation is so much more. And I've had the opportunity to do everything from vessel operations, where I was out in the Pacific, and we were all over the Pacific as we set up contracts as it related to loading, unloading vessels and everything that went along with it, and working with commercial industry. Also had the opportunity to work with air, and also did trucks, coming in as a lieutenant at light with trucks and your tractor trailers and things like that. So I enjoyed the variety, and I've had the opportunity to work across all of those different areas. So I think it's key, finding something that you're interested in, and that you will be interested in over the long haul, which may be a little difficult, in that you're coming in and you're like, okay, I think this is something that I want to be in. But again, doing that research to see, and asking yourself the question, will I like this? Or would I want to be doing this 4 years from now? Would I want to be doing this 5 years from now? Would I want to be doing this 10 years from now? And if you can, as you're doing that research and as you're talking to people in a variety of branches, if you can say, yeah, I could see myself being in this career field 8 years, 10 years, 20 years, then that's something that you definitely want to follow. But do as much research as you possibly can, because it's a big decision. And after a certain point, it is what it is. And you want to make sure that you make the best decision that you can make at that particular point in time in your life.
I think if I can interject, military intelligence leads the way. Everybody loves their branch, and I think it's because we found something that appealed to us. And if you find that, I think you'll make the right choice for yourself. Although we've already had the discussion, there's going to be days that you're going to be kind of scratching your head like, did I make the right choice? But it's like anything, find something that appeals to you. You're going to have good and bad days. But what I tell you from the ROTC perspective, as a cadet, you are going to conduct branch interviews with branch representatives. And it is incumbent of yourself to fully prepare yourself and come ready to put your best foot forward during those branching interviews. So I sat in through the Cadet Command Branching Board. So we looked at over 3,200 plus cadets and their assignment and branch. And what I tell you is branch had a heavy say in who was selected for a branch. So what I tell you is before you go into these branching interviews, read about your branch, prepare yourself. Even if you have to do a mock little branching interview amongst yourselves, be prepared, and that will make a difference as well. So it's not only selecting the right branch, but being selected to go to the branch that you have selected.
All right. Next question comes from Cadet Edwards. And then we have one more after that.
Good afternoon. My question was in regards to the entire panel. It dealt with how important do you feel that continuing education is in the Army as you increase through the ranks?
I think it's very important. I tell you, I actually just took a course on my own recently in terms of for data analytics. And so I think that, again, to pursue your craft and always to strive to be the best at it, you want to continue to educate yourself because things change, and you want to, obviously, I think, be as knowledgeable as you can be in terms of your field. And I think more importantly, from an education perspective, the Army requires you to continue to educate yourself to progress. And so I think overall the Army values education for officer enlisted, and we present opportunities routinely for that through the professional military education programs. And you're basically required to participate, and you should. And then outside of that, I've continued to educate myself for my own personal interest and again, to be proficient at my craft.
Thank you.
I would also say there's no written rule, you know, as you're coming up into the ranks, they'll say, hey, you need a master's. You know, they won't say it's mandatory, but I'll tell you, there's been many a times that files have been across my desk, and the difference between the two is one person took the initiative and got their master's degree. And we needed somebody, hey, did they have a master? Oh yeah, by the way, they do. When I went to CGSC, Command and General Staff College, I thought it was a rigorous course itself. But I was walking through the mall and this guy said, hey, you know, you should get a master. I was like, dude, I am a single parent and I'm at CGSC. There's no way I'm going to be able to do a master's. I walked out of that school with a master's in telecommunications and my CGSC master's. So it can be done as a single parent, and it can be done. Now, there were nights where I just cried because, you know, I had 2 papers doubled up. But I'll tell you, it really takes your passion and it takes your determination to want more. And I would say to each one of you on here, don't let a box be unchecked because you just didn't take the initiative and you said, I'll wait, and you know, you don't need it. You should have your box check of the mandatory things that you know that is going to get you extra, that's going to get you over the hump. Again, you're not competing with anybody. Compete with yourself and tell yourself, these are the standards and this is how I'm going to exceed them. I'm going to get this, and I'm going to. Today, many of us on this panel, we've got 2 masters and a bachelor's. And so, and whether that comes with the School of the War College or CGSC and other things, it's because we also said we wanted more. We didn't just want to be an average officer. So go for the gusto, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Cool.
Let me just throw something out there. I am all about education. Get as much as you can. And I think the military provides one of the greatest opportunities probably in the world. I don't know of any other employers that, you know, provide tuition assistance and give you the GI Bill and have a whole catalog of courses that you can just sign up for on your own and take at your own pace. I mean, there's just so many opportunities, plus the required professional military education. So if you walk out of the military and you have not increased your education, that's on you. And that's a massive failure, in my opinion. There are so many ways to do it. So I would say don't measure education by necessarily a degree. Sometimes you do need the degree, but sometimes it just may be going into the catalog and doing some courses that help you become more competent in your MOS, whatever branch you decide to do. So don't forget about those things. They are just as important. It may be something as simple as signing up for a class in the community college in a little town next to the fort that you're stationed at, to work on something that you've always been interested in, or something that you feel you just want to get better in, whatever it may be. But there's a lot of ways to get after that. I'd also say you probably don't need to, tell your boss, hey, I need to leave work early because I've got class, or I've got to go work on my paper. So you use some discretion, go seek that education. But that's your business. You do that on your time and figure it out. But, don't be known as the guy that's sitting at his desk working on his homework or leaving work early to get to class. There's some people that do that, and you don't want to be that person. But my goodness, the degrees, you got to get the degrees, but there's a lot of other ways to get yourself educated and be a lifelong learner.
Deb, you had me thinking about something else too. So when you guys get in, not necessarily as a lieutenant, but there are other programs that are also the Army offers for fellowships, and the Army will pay for a master's degree. The Army will pay for a PhD. The Army will pay for you to go off to MIT, and there's lots. So what I'm asking you to do is to just do some discovery learning of what the Army offers in that sense. So you have, a list of things that you could choose from, and the things that you could venture into. It's not just about the degree, but it's what are you going to do with it? Why are you doing it? And how is it going to enhance your career as you move forward? So, over.
I know we've piled on this particular topic, but just one more point for those who are trying to figure it out and you're terrified. You kind of heard throughout the conversations here that some folks did not stay within the first MOS or branch that they joined the military in. So if you get into a career that you thought you were going to love, and you found out that it just wasn't what you expected it was going to be, you have time to transition out of it. But it has to be before the Army invests a lot of money into you by sending you to different schools and things to actually do that job. So you do have a small window there. And I think probably Wendy could kind of tell you a little bit more than I can, because it changes over the years. That information does atrophy, but there is a window of opportunity to switch out of your current career if you don't like it. But like the ladies have said before, you got to do your homework, and then transition into something that you really want. And so if you're asking yourself, I don't know what that is, take some time to think about, what do you naturally gravitate to on your free time? What are you surfing the net? When you're surfing the net, what do you gravitate to? Because that's probably tapping into a bit of your passion, because that means you're searching that stuff out for free. You're doing it on your free time. And, so that can kind of help you gravitate towards what you think you might want to do. So I just wanted to let you know, if you go into a career, right off the bat, you're not stuck there, for the next 20 years. You do have an opportunity to switch over, but it does take some research to do that. Over.
So everybody write down VTIP. V as in Victor, Tango, India, Papa. It's our voluntary transfer program that you can transfer from one branch to the next. We have that. Go on the web, go on the Army web. You'll be able to find it, and it'll talk to you about, hey, if I'm in a branch and I don't really want to be here, there's windows of opportunity to transfer to another functional area. Over.
All right, and the seniors, you should know about that because I personally gave you a class on BTIP, so I don't want to hear any questions about that. You just refer back to fall semester. But ladies, I appreciate your time. I have one following question and the final question before I'll open it up to you for any final thoughts. But Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton, floor is yours.
How you doing? I'm Lieutenant Colonel Hamilton. Okay, yeah. Who signal? Because I was 31 years. I served 31 years Signal Corps. So want to put a shout out for that branch. But what I want to ask you is, because my experience was I signed an ROTC scholarship. It was for a guaranteed reserve forces duty contract. So I spent all my time in the reserves. But what do you have to offer for those who are going to reserves?
So we have a whole, at HRC, we have a whole reserve side that handles all of reserve. I can't speak to the reserves. I mean, I know a little bit, but I can get you POCs for any questions, concerns that you may have as far as an offer. So I'm gonna turn to the other panel members if that is the case, but you can use me while I'm still at HRC until June, July. And I can get you any POCs and any information that you need on the reserve because they sit right next to me. On the other side of the hall. Over.
So I'm not an expert on the reserves, but I'm working on the Army's Talent Management Task Force. And one of the initiatives that's ongoing is permeability. And so that basically means the ability for people to move between components more easily than we are able to now. And so maybe you start off as a reservist and then you want to go active duty, or you started active duty and you'd like to go to the Guard or the reserves, and to be able to move between the components throughout the span of a career. If anybody has dabbled in that at all, I think a couple of you mentioned that you may have done something like that. It can be very, very challenging. And so the Army is working hard to make that a little easier and make that a viable option for people as their circumstances change over the years. And I'll just stop there because again, I'm definitely not an expert on the reserves, but if you have a specific question, I'm happy to find the right person and get you an answer.
Yeah, like I say, I've retired, but it was just mainly for, I know some of the cadets may fit that mold. They don't know what to ask, so.
I think if I could share something is even though you get assessed reserve or National Guard, I think it's still key, all the lessons that these great leaders are putting out there. You're still going to be facing the same challenges, albeit not every day. It might be once a month when you drill or when your unit comes up. But what I tell you is all those great tips still apply. Perfect example, right when September 11 hit, I was assigned to 21st Theater Sustainment Command in Germany. Part of our unit was reserved out of Indianapolis, and they were activated on short notice. And, you know, we expected them to step off that plane and be, you know, proficient, not only tactical, but technically proficient. So I just kind of want to give you that to leave you with that thought. Just because you're assessed in the National Guard and Reserve doesn't mean that you don't prepare yourself or you don't give it 100% in your career, because you never know. You could be activated. You know, if you're in the National Guard, activated by the state, or if you're in the reserves, you can be activated to go on Title 10 orders. So all these lessons apply to you as well. And those resources will be available, whether it's ACS, CYS, or CDC. They apply to you as well.
Hi, I would also like to add on to that too. As I stated, I'm a logistician. So in the majority of the logistics is in the reserve component. So I can't tell you how many times, whether it was on a deployment or it's some type of training event where active duty has worked hand in hand with the reserves, or we look to the reserves fully for a particular type of mission set because it only existed within the reserve. Say, for instance, as a transport rail, where there are no active duty rail units within the Army. So where do we get that capability when we need it? They come out of the reserves. And so those that particular reserve unit is called up and they come on active duty, and I've worked with them in various locations as we had to do rail assessments and a variety of things like that. So I think it's very key, that was just stated, that everything we've talked about applies whether you're active duty, reserve, or National Guard. Because again, depending on what your career field is, if you're a loggy, you are getting called up, and particularly over these last years, decades, really, that we've been in combat. Reserve units have been on a rotational basis deploying just as active duty units, in some cases more so, just because, again, of that function that they were providing for the Army. So I think everything that we've discussed today, again, depending on what it was, can and should be applied to when you are taking those leadership responsibilities within the reserves and the active duty.
All right, it is 17:21 local time. We have gone over by 21 minutes. I don't even know if Zoom will allow me to go too much longer without cutting me off altogether, and I appreciate Zoom for not closing me off. That being said, I would like to wrap up. Any of the panel members, if you have any parting words of wisdom, advice, or anything you would like to say before we sign off, I know the cadets will appreciate that. If not now, they'll realize it down the road, looking back at this event, how impactful just your talking to them on this day was. I know I recall at one time a major came back and talked to me when I was a cadet, and it only happened once. And I just remember, I wish I would have asked those questions, or I wish I would have been more engaged. And I didn't realize that until I was a major. So whether they know it or not, I know that they're going to reflect back on this and said, at one point in time, I had a room full of colonels answering questions that nobody else was able to answer. So again, I thank you on behalf of Prairie View and all of the cadets. And if you have any parting words, the floor is yours.
So Milton, I want to say thank you so much for hosting and certainly for inviting us. And I'd like to thank my peers. Ladies, thank you so much for volunteering your time. And I certainly appreciate all of your words of wisdom. And I want to say to the cadets, we really wish you well. You're in a great position right now, starting out at the beginning of your careers. Certainly, all the things that we contemplated years ago, and being on the other side of an Army career, I reflect back on that time frame, and I really am excited for you with all the things that in anticipation of what you're about to embark upon in your life. So we wish you well. And to the team, I would just also say that some of the things that they shared with you today may not be as impactful to you. So given that Lieutenant Colonel Campbell has recorded this session, I would actually go back periodically and listen to it again in terms of the comments, and then think about how they could impact your decisions as you move forward to provide you additional insight. But I wish you well, and I thank you all for your time, and I wish you the best. Over.
So when most people know me, I have to leave you with a poem because I think it's most important. So to the cadets, I absolutely enjoyed every minute of this. I want to congratulate you. And I'm going to ask you, when you're up against life troubles, meet it squarely face to face. Lift your chin and set your shoulders, plant your feet and take a brace. When it's vain to try and dodge it, do the best that you can do. You may fail, but you may conquer. Lieutenant Colonel Campbell needs you to see it through. Black may be the clouds about you and the future may be grim, but don't let your nerves desert you. Keep yourself a fighting trim. If the worst is bound to happen, in spite of all that you can do, running from it will never save you. Your parents need you to see it through. Even hope may seem futile. when your troubles you're beset. But remember, you are facing what other ROTC cadets have met. You may fail, but you may fall still fighting. Don't give up whatever you do. Remember what Prairie View have taught you. Eyes front, head high to the finish. You must, cadets, see it through. Thank you.
Now, Wendy, you know you should have gone last. I ain't got no poem or anything, but that was awesome.
That was amazing.
that was great. I know, right? I want you to almost, finish with that and keep that at the forefront of your brain. But I'm just gonna say from one soldier to another, but also on behalf of a mom who has 2 teenage girls in college right now. So they're the same age as the majority of you all. I just appreciate you sitting here this long and actually listening to what we had to say and taking into consideration what we had to say. You guys are so much farther ahead than the majority of your peers, because you are trying to cultivate a future career, not a part-time job, a future career, and you should be proud of that. So I look forward to seeing you in the ranks one day, seeing you in the formation. We'll get out here and have a good time, keep each other safe, keep each other accountable. That's all I have. And I really appreciate being a part of this. I've learned a lot just joining this session, probably more so than you all have. So thank you for your time. Over.
So I can't follow up those great comments, but I just want to say, as your brigade XO, I might have not met all of you cadets, but I know all of you, if not by name and by file. So keep up the good work. You guys make us extremely proud, and on behalf of the brigade commander and sergeant major, we are proud of you guys. And I look forward to meeting you guys. If you guys see me at CST 21 walking a lane or walking something, please come and say hello. Or if you guys have a question or just need someone to talk to, I will be there at camp. So please come and say hello. And not only did I benefit from speaking to you guys, but I did benefit from hearing from these great leaders and getting motivated. Thank you very much.
I would like to say thank you to Colonel Campbell for inviting us. I feel it's an honor to be able to speak with you all, field your questions. It's an honor to be on a panel with so many other Black female colonels. I'd like to thank each of you for participating in the ROTC program, and for those that have committed or considering committing to the profession of arms. And it is just that, it's a profession. It's not a job, it's a way of life. But I gotta tell you, it is a very fulfilling, exciting, interesting, challenging profession. It has so much to offer, and obviously I love it, or I wouldn't still be here. And I hope that our words today helped you to understand things maybe a little bit better, answer some of the questions, allay some of your fears, and help you make a better decision about the path that you choose. No matter what you do, I would just say to you, work hard, persevere. You're going to have some tough days. Life's going to throw you some curveballs. You may not always get to where you're trying to go on the most direct path, but don't give up. Don't let others, steal your inner strength and confidence and joy. Just work hard. Someone mentioned the relationships, build those relationships, and go for the things that you want to do. You all have something that you want to do in this life. figure out how to get there, and then just systematically work at it, and enjoy the ride. And thanks again for spending so much time with us. I really appreciate it.
All right, cadets, you're now released back to your dorm rooms or wherever you need to be at. Appreciate you. I'm not going to be able to give this time back to you tomorrow, but I'll tell you what, you get this 30 minutes back on the weekend. All right. Thank you for all participating. I hope you, I know you got something out of it. So, all right. And again, to the panel, thank you again. Thank you very much.